What do you do when you realize the map you're looking at is upside down? Do you take a moment to consider how your sense of direction has been irrevocably altered? Do you panic and scream as you contemplate the impossibility of ever finding your way home again? Or do you soldier on, pretending that everything's fine while secretly panicking inside? Well, if you're an ancient Roman general, none of the above, because you just keep marching forward and hope for the best. And really, when you think about it, that's pretty much the motto of the entire Roman Empire. Join us as we count down the top military blunders that happened because the map was upside down, from Trojan war horses to the British East India Company. These are some of the biggest oopsies in history. Number 10. Too much cinnamon. Picture this. The year is 1497, and the Spanish conquistador is about to capture the riches of the New World. But wait, what's that coming out of the jungle? Is it a fearsome monster or perhaps a band of hostile natives? It doesn't matter, because either way it's gonna get the crap kicked out of it. Except, and this is gonna sound ridiculous, but the conquistadors attack each other. Turns out what they thought was a new species of ape was actually another group of Spaniards who had landed there first. A fight ensues and several men die before someone realizes that everyone is speaking Spanish, and the rest, as they say, is history. The story goes that the confusion was caused by the smell of cinnamon, which the two groups used to mask their presence. This led to a bit of inter-squadron warfare, until it was realized that the enemy was in fact a friend. Sometimes the greatest threat is the one you don't see coming, whether it's an ambush, an unexpected enemy, or simply getting lost. Sometimes the greatest dangers lurk in the shadows. That's why it's important to be prepared for anything. And no, we're not talking about going camping or hiking, although those are good things to be prepared for. We're talking about being ready for the unexpected, like an emergency situation at home or in your community. When disaster strikes, will you be ready? If you don't know where to start with preparing for emergencies, don't worry, we've got you covered. Number 9. The Great Emu War of 1932. Who would win in a fight? A heavily armed soldier or a small flightless bird? The answer is obviously the soldier, right? Wrong. In November of 1932, the Australian military attempted to cull the local emu population after they caused extensive damage to farmers' crops. The plan was simple: surround the birds and shoot them. What could possibly go wrong? Turns out a lot. The emus were fast, agile, and most importantly, they were extremely stupid. So instead of staying put and being picked off one by one, they just kept running towards the soldiers, forcing them to retreat. With their numbers dwindling, the emus became bolder, and eventually the farmers joined in on the fun, further demoralizing the already struggling troops. Eventually, the military called off the operation, admitting defeat against their feathery foes. Maybe next time they'll pick on someone their own size. Now, if only we could apply this lesson to the human conflicts, maybe the world would be a better place. Speaking of which, number 8. A royal pain in the backside. The Romans weren't the only ones to suffer from navigational issues. In 1191, King Richard the Lionheart got lost in the Holy Land during the Third Crusade. While trying to reach his objective, Jerusalem, he accidentally attacked and fought against his allies, killing several of them before realizing his mistake. Luckily, he was able to make amends and continue on to sack Jerusalem, but not before losing valuable time and resources that could have been used to, not attacking his allies. Sometimes getting lost can have serious consequences, which brings us to our next point. Number 7. The Battle of Corinth. Imagine if Google Maps sent you on a wild goose chase through the wilderness, except the chase involved real-life geese, and you're not just trying to find the nearest coffee shop, but instead need to navigate to an important battle. Sound impossible? Well, it happened in 1914 when the Imperial Austrian army set out to defend Karansabis, Hungary, against invading Russians. But due to miscommunication and faulty maps, the Austrians ended up attacking and fighting against themselves. It was a complete disaster, causing hundreds of casualties and completely ruining the morale of the troops. Luckily, they were able to sort out their navigational issues and defeat the Russians, but not before losing valuable time and resources. Maybe next time they should stick to following actual maps instead of relying on Google. No. 6. The Lost Legion. For centuries, the Roman Empire was known for its military might, but even the mightiest army can get lost. In 120 BC, a Roman legion disappeared without a trace while marching through Dacia, now modern-day Romania. Some believe they were ambushed and killed by local tribes, while others think they simply got lost in the wilderness and starved to death. The truth may never be known, but the story serves as a reminder that even the greatest empires are run. Maybe they should have brought a map. Number 5. When pigs fly. You've heard the expression, but did you know it almost literally came true? In 1539, a Spanish conquistador named Hernando de Soto landed in Florida with plans to conquer the land for the King of Spain. But when his fleet arrived, they found something unexpected: a massive herd of pigs that had been released by earlier explorers and multiplied in the wild. Thinking they were descended from legendary swine monsters, the conquistadors panicked and fled. Turns out it was just a bunch of pigs looking for a snack. The incident became known as the War of the Pigs, and is considered one of the earliest examples of mass hysteria in the Americas. Maybe next time they should bring a bigger knife. No. 4. The Battle of Cannae. Hannibal Barca is a legendary general, but even he had his share of navigational issues. In 216 BC, he led his army through the Alps and into Italy, surprising the Romans who thought such a feat was impossible. However, during the Battle of Cannae, Hannibal's forces got lost in the thick Italian undergrowth and were unable to escape the encircling Roman army. Despite being outnumbered, Hannibal's elephants and cavalry fought bravely, but eventually the Romans prevailed, inflicting heavy casualties on the cut. It was a devastating loss for Hannibal, but he went on to become one of history's most famous generals despite his navigational oopsie. Turns out even geniuses make mistakes. No. 3. The Anglo-Zanzibar War. The shortest war in history lasted only 38 minutes and took place between Britain and Zanzibar in 1896. The conflict arose when the British asked the Zanzibari Sultan to abdicate the throne in favor of his cousin, Hamid bin Mohammed, whom they had made a deal with. But the Sultan refused and instead barricaded himself in his palace with a small force of soldiers. The British responded by sending in the Royal Navy, which bombarded the palace until it fell, killing an estimated 500 The entire conflict was over before most people had finished their lunch break, making it the shortest war in recorded history. Talk about a quickie. No. 2. The Mongol invasion of Japan. The Mongol Empire was a force to be reckoned with, but even they couldn't conquer Japan. In 1274 and 1281, Mongol armies led by Kublai Khan invaded the Japanese island of Tsushima, but both attempts were thwarted by massive storms that destroyed their fleets and forced them to retreat. The Mongols tried again in 1292, but were once again defeated by Mother Nature. These failed invasions became known as the Kamikaze, or Divine Wind, and are still celebrated in Japan today. Maybe the Mongols should have checked the weather forecast before starting a war. And finally, no. 1. The Trojan Horse. The Trojan War is a legendary conflict between the Greeks and the Trojans, but one of its most famous moments was also one of its greatest oopsie. After a long and bloody siege, the Greeks pretended to sail away, leaving behind a massive wooden horse as a gift to the Trojans. However, unbeknownst to the Trojans, the horse was filled with Greek soldiers who snuck into the city at night and opened the gates for the rest of the Greek army. The Trojans were defeated and their city was sacked, all because they didn't check what was inside the gift they received. Maybe next time they should stick to unwrapping presents in front of the giver. Well, that's it for this episode of the Oopsie Archive. From pig-induced panics to colossal navigational fails, we've seen some of the most hilarious and horrifying oopsies in history. But don't worry, there are plenty more where those came from. So stay tuned for more episodes of the Oopsie Archive, where we continue to dive into the hilarious, horrifying, and downright head-scratching mistakes that have shaped our world. Until then, remember to keep an eye on your maps, your horses, and your pigs, because you never know when disaster might strike.